Hey everyone! Have you ever wondered what the most unexpectedly awkward job in paradise would be? Well, let me tell you about the 4 months you spent working as a midnight lifeguard on Copacabana Beach in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. And trust me, by the end of this story, you'll never hear the words "watch the water" without your face turning red. This is the story of how you took what seemed like a dream job on the most famous beach in South America and ended up in situations so wild that you questioned whether this was real life or some kind of elaborate prank show. And before we dive into this Brazilian chaos, if you're not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button right now. Smash that like button because this story is absolutely insane, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our wild stories. All right, let's get into it. So here's how this whole mess started. You're an American living in Rio, teaching English at a language school, barely making rent on your tiny apartment in Lapa, and you see this job posting in an expat Facebook group. Midnight beach patrol lifeguard needed for Copacabana, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. shifts, 4,500 reais a month plus beach kiosk privileges. Must be strong swimmer and speak Portuguese. 4,500 reais is decent money in Rio. You're a certified lifeguard from your college days, and your Portuguese is pretty good after 2 years in Brazil. You apply immediately. 1 week later, you're sitting in an interview with Marcelo, this incredibly tanned, muscular Brazilian guy in his 50s who runs the private security contract for the beach. Marcelo explains the situation. Look, Copacabana is busy all day. We have daytime lifeguards for that. But at night, especially weekends, people still go to the beach. Couples, party groups, drunk tourists. The city wants someone patrolling midnight to dawn to prevent drownings and deal with beach incidents. It's mostly walking the beach, checking on people, making sure nobody's swimming drunk. Simple, yes? It sounds straightforward enough. You accept. They give you a red lifeguard uniform, a whistle, a radio, and a schedule. Your first night is a Friday. You arrive at Copacabana at 10 p.m., and the beach is still alive. Not crowded like daytime, but definitely occupied. Groups of young Brazilians drinking beer, couples walking hand in hand, a few tourists taking nighttime photos of the iconic waves. The Copacabana Palace Hotel is lit up beautifully in the background. You meet your partner for the night, Lucas, a Brazilian lifeguard who's been doing this for 2 years. He's cool, laid back, and immediately tells you, man, night shift is totally different from day. You're gonna see some wild shit. Just stay professional and keep your radio handy. You start your first patrol, walking along the beach with Lucas, checking on the scattered groups. Everything seems fine. People are just chilling, drinking, enjoying the warm night. Then, around midnight, you see a couple in the water. Not unusual, except they're pretty far out and the waves are picking up. You and Lucas walk to the edge and blow your whistles, gesturing for them to come back to shore. They wave back but don't move. You blow the whistle again, more insistently. Finally, they start swimming back. When they reach the shore, you realize they're really young, like early 20s, and definitely drunk. The girl is wearing a bikini, the guy board shorts, both giggling uncontrollably. You try to be professional. Hey, it's not safe to swim at night, especially after drinking. The guy, in Portuguese, responds, "We weren't swimming, we were enjoying the ocean." The way he says enjoying with that grin makes it very clear they weren't just swimming. The girl giggles more. You feel your face getting hot. Lucas just shakes his head and says, "Keep it on the sand, guys. Safer for everyone." They stumble back to their towels, still laughing. Lucas turns to you with this knowing look. "Welcome to Midnight Copacabana, gringo. That's gonna happen like 10 times a night." You ask what he means. He explains. Couples come here because it's dark, it's romantic, the water is private. They think we can't see what they're doing. We can. We always can. You realize that your job isn't just preventing drownings, it's preventing public indecency in the ocean. Great. The rest of that first night, you encounter 3 more couples in compromising situations in the water. 2 groups of teenagers who scattered beer cans everywhere and tried to start a bonfire, which is illegal. 1 lost drunk American tourist who couldn't remember his hotel name, and a guy who was absolutely convinced he could surf at 2 a.m. without a board just by riding the energy of the waves. By 6 a.m. when your shift ends, you're exhausted and you've only worked one night. Week 2 brings new challenges. You're getting better at identifying which people in the water are actually swimming versus not swimming. There's a difference in body language that becomes obvious once you know what to look for. But the real test comes on a Saturday night when a group of what appears to be a bachelorette party arrives at the beach around 1 a.m. 10 women, all wearing matching white shirts with Bride Tribe Rio printed on them, clearly already buzzed from the bars in Lem. They set up near your lifeguard station, blast music from a Bluetooth speaker, and start taking photos. Fine, normal touristy behavior. But then the bride, probably mid-20s and blonde, spots you in your red lifeguard uniform and announces loudly, "Oh my God, girls, a real Brazilian lifeguard!" You're about to correct her that you're American, but Lucas nudges you and whispers, "Just let it go, it's easier." The bride approaches you with her phone. "Can we get a picture with you for Instagram?" You agree, thinking it's harmless. They arrange themselves around you, and suddenly you're surrounded by 10 drunk women hanging off your arms, touching your shoulders, and the bride is making a comment about checking the lifeguard CPR skills while her friends crack up. You smile awkwardly for the photos, they thank you excessively, and go back to their group. You think that's the end of it. It's not. For the next 2 hours, every time you walk past their area on patrol, they call out things like, "Save me, lifeguard," or "I need mouth to mouth," followed by cackling laughter. At one point, 2 of them actually go into the water fully clothed and pretend to be drowning just to see if you'll come in. You blow your whistle, they laugh, and come out on their own. Lucas is amused by your discomfort. "Bro, this happens all the time. Girls see the uniform, they get ideas. Just ignore it and keep working." But the situation escalates when the bride decides she wants to go for a real swim to sober up. At 3 a.m., after drinking heavily. Her friends try to stop her, but she's insistent, walking toward the water in her white shirt and jean shorts. You have to intervene. "Ma'am, I really don't recommend swimming right now. The waves are strong and you've been drinking." She looks at you with this mischievous smile. "Then come with me. Make sure I'm safe. That's your job, right?" Her friends are encouraging this, filming on their phones, clearly thinking this is hilarious. You maintain professionalism. "Ma'am, my job is to keep people out of the water when it's not safe, not go in with them." She pouts, her friends boo you playfully, and Lucas has to step in with his authoritative Brazilian energy to firmly tell them no swimming. They finally give up, but not before the bride leaves you her Instagram handle in case you need to check that she got home safely. You throw the paper away the moment they leave. Lucas laughs at you the entire rest of the shift. Week 3 is when things get really weird. You're doing a routine patrol around 2 a.m. on a Tuesday, so the beach is mostly empty, when you see 2 people near the water doing what looks like yoga. You get closer and realize it's a couple doing partner yoga poses, which would be wholesome except they're both in swimwear, and some of the poses are extremely intimate, like positions that make you wonder if this is still yoga or has crossed into something else. You approach awkwardly. "Hey, folks, just checking in, making sure everything's okay here?" They break their pose, and the woman, an American accent, responds enthusiastically. "Oh yes, we're just doing tantric beach yoga. It's amazing under the moonlight. You should join us." You decline as politely as possible, explain that you're working, and continue your patrol. But for the rest of the night, every time you pass their area, they're in increasingly questionable yoga poses. You radio Lucas, "Is tantric beach yoga a thing?" He responds, "It is now, apparently." As long as they're not naked and not in the water, not our problem. By week 4, you've developed a thick skin and a repertoire of professional responses to awkward situations. When someone asks if you give private lessons, you respond that you're there for safety only. When couples ask if you can take a photo of them kissing in the waves, you take the photo quickly and move on. When drunk people ask personal questions about your love life, you deflect with beach safety facts. You've become a master of maintaining boundaries while being polite. But then comes the incident that will become legend among the Copacabana night guards. It's a Friday night, around 1 a.m., and you notice a man and woman arguing loudly in Portuguese near the water. The woman is crying, the man is gesturing dramatically. You approach to make sure everything's okay and not escalating into violence. As you get closer, you catch enough of the conversation to understand. He forgot their anniversary, she's upset, he's trying to apologize by suggesting they recreate their first beach date right now. She's not buying it. The man sees you approaching and suddenly has an idea. He calls out to you, "Lifeguard, you, come here." You walk over cautiously. He explains in rapid Portuguese that he needs your help to set up a romantic scene to save his relationship. He wants you to, what? Play music? No. Bring champagne? No. He wants you to rescue her from the water as if she's drowning, so he can be the hero who got help in time and showed he cares about her safety. You stare at him in disbelief. This man wants you to stage a fake drowning rescue for relationship repair? You try to explain that this is insane and also probably illegal, but he's desperate, offering you money, pleading. The woman is now intrigued by his crazy plan and actually seems touched by the effort. She agrees to be rescued. You're in the middle of explaining again that you absolutely cannot do this when Lucas shows up to see what's taking so long. When you explain the situation to him, he just laughs and says in Portuguese, "Welcome to Rio, man. Romance here is different." He actually helps convince you to do a very mild version where she pretends to have a cramp and you help her back to shore while the boyfriend rushes over worried. You go through with this ridiculous charade. She pretends to have leg cramps in shallow water. You help support her back to the beach. The boyfriend runs over all concerned. They embrace. She cries happy tears. He thanks you profusely and tries to tip you 100 reals, which you refuse. They walk off into the night holding hands, and you're left standing there thinking about all the career choices that led you to this moment. Lucas is dying laughing. That's definitely going in my top 10 beach stories. Staged rescue for anniversary. Classic. Week 6 brings something completely unexpected. Media attention. A Brazilian news channel is doing a segment on the unsung heroes of Rio's beaches, and they want to feature the night lifeguards. You're asked if you're willing to be interviewed. Marcelo encourages it, says it's good PR. You agree, figuring it'll be a straightforward interview about beach safety. The interview happens during your shift. The reporter, an attractive Brazilian woman in her 30s, asks standard questions about your job, challenges, rescues you've made. You answer professionally, discussing water safety, the importance of night patrols, dangers of swimming while intoxicated. It all seems fine. The segment airs 3 days later. The angle they chose? Gringo Lifeguard becomes Copacabana's midnight heartthrob. They focused on you being American, young, fit, and working romantically under the moonlight on Rio's most famous beach. The reactions are immediate. Your Instagram, which you never made private, gets flooded with messages in Portuguese, English, and Spanish, ranging from supportive, "great work" messages to much more suggestive content. Your phone won't stop buzzing. The language school where you teach starts getting calls asking if you still work there and when you're free. One of your private students shows you that you're trending on Brazilian Twitter with the hashtag #HotLifeguard. Marcelo calls you. "Hey, so you're famous now. This is great for business, but also be careful. We've had an unusual number of people showing up at the beach at night this week asking about the American lifeguard." You ask if that's a problem? He says, "Just maintain your professionalism. Don't let it go to your head. And maybe consider making your social media private." You take his advice immediately, but the damage is done. Your next shifts are surreal. People actually come to the beach specifically at night, not to swim, but to see the famous lifeguard. Groups of young women hang around your station, giggling and trying to talk to you. A few guys even come up asking for beach safety tips, but clearly just wanting to see if you're as American as you seem on TV. One night, someone brings a cake with "Obrigado salvavidas" written on it. Thanks you for your service, and leaves. You didn't even save anyone that week. Lucas finds this entire situation hilarious. Bro, you've become attraction, like the Christ the Redeemer statue, but with a six-pack. You want to be annoyed, but honestly, it's so absurd that you can't help but laugh too. The attention does die down after a couple weeks once the novelty wears off, but you're forever known among the beach staff as the one who was on TV. And before I wrap this up, I need to ask you guys, have you ever had a job where you unexpectedly became the center of attention for the weirdest reasons? Or worked somewhere where people constantly misinterpreted what you do? Drop your stories in the comments because I'm dying to hear if anyone else has had experiences like this. By month 3, you've settled into the rhythm of night beach life. You know which couples are just cuddling versus actively violating public decency laws. You can spot drunk tourists from 100 meters away. You've mastered the art of saying, "Please don't do that," in 5 different languages. You've prevented 12 actual drownings, broken up 20 arguments, returned 8 lost wallets, and dealt with countless bizarre requests ranging from, "Can you propose to my girlfriend for me?" to, "Will you teach me to surf right now at 3 a.m.? You've also made genuine connections. There's Rosa, the older woman who sells acai from her cart and always saves you a cup. There's Juan, the homeless man who sleeps under the Lifeguard tower and helps you spot trouble in exchange for you buying him breakfast. There's the early morning fishermen who arrive around 5 a.m. and chat with you about the tides while you wait for your shift to end. These people become part of your routine, part of why the job becomes more than just awkward tourist encounters. One night in your 4th month, you actually save someone who was really in trouble. Not a drunk tourist, not a couple being reckless, but a teenage boy who got caught in a riptide around 4 a.m. He was swimming alone, which was stupid, but he panicked when he felt the current pulling him. You saw him, immediately radioed for backup, grabbed your rescue tube, and went in. The water was rougher than usual, the current was strong, but your training kicked in. You got to him, calmed him down, and brought him back to shore safely. He was crying, terrified, thanking you over and over in Portuguese. His older brother, who had been passed out drunk on the beach and hadn't realized his sibling went swimming, woke up to the commotion and also started crying and thanking you. You checked the kid for injuries, he was fine, just scared, and you gave them both a serious lecture about night swimming and looking out for each other. That moment, that legitimate rescue, reminded you why you took this job despite all the weirdness. You actually help people. You actually save lives. Lucas, who arrived as backup but didn't need to enter the water, clapped you on the back afterward. That's what it's really about, man. All the crazy shit we deal with, the drunk tourists, the couples, the attention, it's worth it for moments like this. You saved that kid's life. You realize he's right. For all the absurdity, this job matters. Your last month, you've decided to transition back to just teaching English full-time. You got offered a better position at a larger school with actual benefits, and while the lifeguard pay was good, it's not sustainable long-term. Plus, honestly, you're exhausted. Night shifts are brutal on your sleep schedule, and you'd like to have a social life that doesn't revolve around being awake when everyone else is asleep. Your final night, several of the beach regulars show up to say goodbye. Rosa brings you a giant acai bowl. Zhuang gives you a handmade bracelet. The fishermen invite you to join them for a beer after your shift ends. Even some of the couples you've had to warn multiple times about water safety come by to thank you for keeping them safe even when they were being idiots. It's surprisingly touching. Lucas works your final shift with you, and as you do your last patrol watching the sun rise over the Atlantic, painting Copacabana in gold, he says, "You know, for a gringo who didn't know what he was getting into, you did pretty good. Most foreigners can't handle the chaos, but you adapted. That's very Brazilian of you." Coming from Lucas, who's seen countless lifeguards come and go, that means something. What did you learn from this experience? First, any job on a beach at night will attract people with questionable decision-making skills, and that's just part of the deal. Second, fame is weird, uncomfortable, and usually undeserved, but also temporary, so don't let it change you. Third, maintaining professionalism in absurd situations is a skill that transfers to all areas of life. Fourth, Brazilian culture is wild, passionate, unpredictable, and absolutely unforgettable. Fifth, saving one life makes 1,000 awkward encounters worth it. Sixth, sometimes the weirdest jobs give you the best stories and remind you why you're alive. You also learned about yourself. You learned you can handle chaos with grace. You learned that being the butt of jokes and center of unwanted attention doesn't define you. You learned that helping people, even when they're being ridiculous, is actually fulfilling. And you learned that you never, ever want to work night shifts again, but you're glad you did it. Today, 6 months later, you're teaching English full-time at a great school, sleeping normal hours, and living a much more conventional life. But people still recognize you occasionally. "Hey, aren't you the midnight lifeguard?" they'll ask. You smile and confirm, and usually there's a story about how they saw you on the beach once or heard about some incident. You've become part of Copacabana lore in a small way. Your friends from home can't believe the stories when you tell them. They think you're exaggerating until you show them photos, videos, screenshots of the news segment. Then they're jealous. You had the coolest, weirdest job ever and you complained about it? You explain that living it was different from hearing about it, but you appreciate it more in retrospect. Sometimes, late at night, you'll walk down to Copacabana just to see it. You'll spot the current night guards doing their patrols, dealing with the same chaos you did. You'll see couples in the water, drunk tourists stumbling around, someone inevitably doing something they shouldn't. And you'll smile because you understand now that it's all part of the beautiful, messy, unpredictable energy that makes Rio special. So that's it, everyone. The completely true, only slightly exaggerated story of how you became a midnight lifeguard in Copacabana and learned that saving lives, maintaining dignity in awkward situations, and surviving Brazilian beach culture at its wildest is possible, admirable, and absolutely exhausting. If you enjoyed this wild ride through nighttime Rio, absolutely demolish that like button. Share this with your friends who need to hear about bizarre job experiences, and subscribe if you haven't already, because we've got more insane stories coming. Thanks for watching, and remember, if a job sounds too good to be true in paradise, it probably involves dealing with drunk people doing questionable things in the ocean. See you in the next one, and may your careers be less chaotic than mine was.